Hey guys, welcome to the tutorial on my channel that has been very highly requested ever since I had rainbow hair over about a year ago, I guess, when I had my rainbow hair dyed into the side of my hair. As you guys probably can see, that rainbow is no longer here for a number of reasons, but I decided that I really missed it, and I didn't really want to go back and start bleaching my hair and deal with all of the maintenance and the upkeep. So what I did is I took a pair of VP Fashion 613A dyeable extensions and I dyed them into a rainbow. So now I have these kind of, you can see this piece right here. This is an extension. It's my hair color kind of ombre like into this pink color. So I did that with all of the colors of the rainbow, and I'm going to walk you guys through how I did that process. So I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you hang around for some helpful tips and tricks and just some extra information at the end of the video. But for those of you who asked, hey Aureylian, how did you get your rainbow hair? This is the process, and I hope you guys enjoy. First things first, supplies. So you'll need the colors of the rainbow. I used 10 colors in total, plus the coloring for my hair, which I also have some developer there for. You'll need some mixing bowls for your normal color, and then the brushes. You can use one for every color or less, just to have to wash more. You'll need your hair extensions. I also used a plastic tablecloth to protect my dining room table from stains, gloves, and aluminum foil. So you can see that we laid out the aluminum foil here. Angie, my colorist, is already applying the first dark pink color to that first section of hair. If you look at the top, you can see that we've sectioned off the hair in ponytails. And the reason why we did that is because we had 10 colors and we wanted to make it easier to separate the hair while we were doing it and making sure that they were done in equal portions. So if you want to do that for yourself as well, you'll just divide it in the number that you have. We had 10 colors, so we did 5 sections, and then we just divided those sections in 2. So she is applying the color. As you see, we did a dark and a light for each color range. So you'll just need to make sure that you squirt on pretty generous amounts onto each section, and then you'll want to brush it on with the brush. She's got the hair really separated because you want it to be really saturated in there and you don't want to miss any pieces. So feel free to apply a generous amount, especially for the lighter colors, which take a little bit more to adhere to the hair. So just squirt it. We did it about halfway up the extensions. They were 22-inch extensions, and apply that color on, and then you'll want to repeat that process for every section as well. So you may notice as you're going through your colors that the hair starts to spread out a little bit more and more. So it's natural to have to add in another section of tinfoil just to give it enough room. It's better to spread it all out so that you have enough to spread the color than it is to try to cram them all onto one piece of foil. So you may have to divide it into 2 different sheets like what you see here. You want to go ahead and apply the color to all of the extensions at one time. So mine came with 2 4 sections, 2 3 sections, and individuals, and you want to apply the color to all of them before you move on to the next step. Go ahead and set your timer for 25 minutes. You may not need the full 25 depending on how long it's taken you to get through all of the extensions, but the color should sit on for 25 minutes in total. And it's a great time for a game break! So do whatever you need to do for 25 minutes and then come back to your hair extensions. Alright, so this is kind of the tricky part. You're gonna go ahead and wash out all of the color now. So the first reason it's kind of tricky is because I use the sink, and you don't want to just put all of the color in at one time because they will run and bleed together. You're going to want to wash them out one at a time, being as gentle as you can. You can see that I'm not like rubbing the hair together. I'm trying to be pretty delicate with it. You can cup it in your hand and let the water pool up and then squeeze it out. But you'll want to do that for every color individually. And you'll also want to make sure that as you're doing that, you're not pulling the hair on the foil so that like the blue mixes into where the yellow dye is, or vice versa, because you don't want them to run together. So as carefully as you can, just go through and one by one on each set of extensions and with each color individually, wash out that color until the water runs clear. Another side note on this, we used gloves while we were applying the color, didn't think about it, and didn't use gloves while washing them out, and they still severely dyed my hands. So if you're worried about that, make sure you wear gloves for this step as well. Yay, so they're all finally colored and dried. You can see them all lined out here. So we're ready to start applying the main hair color, which in my case is red. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove all of the individual ponytails off of them. I'm not pulling them out because I don't wanna pull any of the hair from the extensions. So I'm very carefully cutting them all off, being sure that I obviously don't cut the hair that's underneath. So if you've done the ponytail step, now is the time when you wanna go ahead and remove all of them. So when you're applying the main color, it's really important that all of the hair is equally spread out. So I'm taking a brush and just very gently brushing out all of the extensions and then trying to smooth it out as wide as I can to make sure on the first pass through with the main color, I'm hitting as much of the hair as I can. Now it's finally time to add on my main color. I'm mixing it just to make sure the developer and the color are all mixed in really nice and good so that it doesn't blotch or anything on the hair. So it's a little bit tricky on how to do this because you're gonna have to hold the hair from the top, but you're also going to wanna make sure that you get all of the stitching, all of the hair, every piece of the top, so that you don't see any of it in the clips when it's actually clipped into your hair. So going through each piece, you'll want to make sure that you apply a generous amount of hair color, go all the way down until you meet the color. Once you get to the color, that's kind of the tricky part. So you'll want to just take the edge of the brush that you're using and just in kind of a not really straight line, just bring down that color over the rainbow colors, just a little bit at a time. How far down you go is really up to you. I went about 1 inch to 1.5 inches from the blonde into the color to give it that really nice fade effect. Your hands are gonna get dirty again during this step. I didn't use gloves because they were already kind of messed up from washing the rainbow out. So I would wear gloves if you're concerned about dyeing your hands. You can also see during this step, I don't have the tinfoil down. I specifically bought this plastic tablecloth with the intention of ruining it, and we also ran out of foil, so you can use it directly on the tablecloth if you want. If you're concerned, you can lay down newspaper, but I opted to use the tablecloth because it was heavy enough not to leak through to my dining room table underneath, and I just threw it away when it was done, and it was $4 from Walmart. So I went ahead and applied it directly onto the tablecloth, but you could use foil again if you needed to. Once you finish the front side, you're gonna wanna flip the hair extension oval. You can see how much hair I missed. It's so blonde on the back still. So you wanna lift up the clip in the back, make sure that you get all of the hair, again, all of the stitches, make sure that's all generously covered with dye, and you'll wanna do one more pass through on the back just to ensure that everything is your right hair color. This is a super important step, so don't go skimpy on the hair dye. You cannot use enough on this portion. Just make sure that you've purchased enough ahead of time, but this is a really important step. If you miss this, it'll splotch your hair, it'll look fake, it'll look really, really bad. So make sure that you spend a generous amount of time and use a generous amount of your hair color on this step so that it looks really nice and complete and it blends really well with your natural hair. You're gonna think to yourself at this point, my hair looks ratchet. Don't worry, once we let the color sit and we wash it all out, it's gonna look just fine. So make sure you apply the color. You can see the longer it sits, the darker it's gonna get. Apply it to all the extensions, and then you're going to wanna set your timer. Depending on the hair color, I let mine sit for about 35 minutes. So just watch the clock as you're doing your first set to the time you do the last set. It won't hurt it if you leave it on too long, but I like to be a little bit consistent with my extensions, so make sure you set the timer for 35 minutes and then come back when they're done. When you're washing the color out of your extensions, I forgot to mention it earlier, but colder water is better. It doesn't have to be freezing, but it should be at least room temperature to colder room temperature when you're washing them out. So as you're washing the main color out of your extensions, make sure you hold it upside down and let that water pool up like you were doing with the color so that it washes all out until it runs clear. The reason I'm not holding it upside down like I was doing when I washed out the rainbow colors is because I don't want too much of that dye to soak into the lighter yellows and greens and things like that. So I'm gonna wash it pretty much until it runs clear, and then it's okay to do one final pass through all the way down just to ensure that all of the dye is out of the extension. So that's it. Once everything's washed out, you can air dry them, blow dry them, curl them, straighten them, however you want to wear them. They are ready to go. You don't have to shampoo them or anything else. You can wash these occasionally, restyle them, however you would like to wear them. I prefer to wear mine curled. You can see the pink clip in the front has the ombre showing where it blends from the red to the pink. I think they turned out pretty great. I really like them. They're really fun, really easy to wear, and I can see myself definitely wearing them to conventions and to parties and all kinds of stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed that tutorial, that walkthrough of how I did it. Just as a heads up, it was really time consuming. Overall, now you have to keep in mind that I was taking breaks in between for the coloring and things like that, but overall, it took me between 6 and 7 hours to complete that entire process. I did have help for a short period of time. My hairstylist actually came over. You saw her hands in the beginning of the video. She helped teach me how to do the color at first and how to actually get that ombre effect. But then for the majority of it, I was by myself. So if you had help, it could probably go a lot faster, but for the majority of it, it was just one person, me, working on it. I will also tell you that this is a pretty expensive project. So the hair extensions alone, you can look on VP Fashion's website, which is linked in the description below. They vary depending on length. So if you have short hair, it's probably more beneficial for you because you can get shorter extensions. For me, I have pretty long hair, so I did the 22-inch extensions, and there's also a 24-inch, which is like even longer. It'd probably go down to like my belly button curled. So it depends on the length, but you can check out the prices. But on top of that, the supplies that you'll need, the hair coloring, to actually match your color, I used salon quality coloring, which probably would run about $20 because I had to mix mine. So that was for me. And then the developer, which was another $2 or $3. And then each one of the colors, I had 10 colors in total on my hair. We used Privana Vivids for some of the colors. We used some ion colors for 3 of them, and then there was like another brand that you could just kind of like the squirt on pink one that you saw in the beginning. So in total, those all ranged anywhere from $8 a box down to $4 a box. So let's just say they averaged about $6. That's $60 in coloring. Plus you'll need supplies. You'll need, you could probably get away with using like plastic bowls at home. I actually used the salon mixing bowls because I didn't want to ruin anything that I had at home, and they're fairly inexpensive. It's like $1 or $2 here for the brushes, which you will need a brush for at least. We had 8 brushes and it worked because by the time we did one, I threw them in the sink and washed it, and then it was fine. But you could use anywhere between probably 5 and 10 brushes just for ease of use, and those are about $1.50 a piece. You also saw the big tablecloth that I used and I mentioned in the video. That also was only $5. You could use newspapers. I know that Super Mary has done a tutorial on her channel as well, and she just did like magazines and newspapers. I don't have magazines and newspapers, and I wanted something that was really thick since I was putting it on my actual dining room table, and I didn't want to risk it bleeding through or ruining my table. So I just went to Walmart and got one of those really heavy kind of plastic tablecloths. It was $4.95, I think. So pretty inexpensive. So as you can see, like there's a list of like a bunch of little things that you can buy. You could also do it at home. Overall, I mean, I'd say the product will run you several $100s if you want to do that. Now, the toss-up for me was, as I mentioned before, my hair, when I would color it, would cost me $200 every 4 to 6 weeks, and I did it probably 2 or 3 times. So there was $400 to $600 in itself in my hair, and that had to be retouched all the time. On top of the fact that then I had to deal with my hair being damaged from the bleach. When I didn't want the rainbow anymore, I had to like process over it and wait for my hair to grow out, and it took 6 months for my hair to finally get back to a normal color again. So it is expensive, but when you compare it to, hey, I really want to have rainbow hair, you know, there's pros and cons. So comparatively, it's actually not. These will stay in for a really long time. You can wash them, you can re-dye them. It's not gonna mess up your own hair. But yeah, so it is expensive. It's not cheap. It's very time consuming to do the extensions. Like I said, it took about 6 to 7 hours for me to do it by myself. So if you have a free night, you know, if you want to like have a girlfriend come over and hang out and watch chick flicks or something and work on your hair extensions, you could definitely do that. Maybe you have like a hair extension party and everybody does their hair extensions. Another idea is that if you're going to do that, if you have someone who will go in with you, the tubes that we used, we didn't make a dent in the tubes. So I actually owned 5 of the colors before. So I owned one of the yellow, the orange, the green, the blue, the purple, and one of the pinks. So what is that, 6 colors, I guess? 5 colors? From my rainbow before, and I had used them down to like maybe a quarter of the tube, and that was enough to get the rest of these done. So if you have the coloring and you want to go in with somebody to do it to save you, you know, 20 to 40 bucks depending on the coloring, you can do that. Manic Panic is very expensive. Manic Panic is like $10 a little container. A lot of people like it because it is vegan, it's like cruelty free. It might even be organic, maybe, I don't know, but it's really healthy in terms of like hair dye that you can use. It comes in a big vat. You won't even make a dent in that hair dye at all, and you can also buy, there's a little like kind of clear container that you can mix in to make it a pastel. So if you wanted to do a red and then you mix it and you get your pink, so you could buy 5. It still probably cost you between like 50 and 60 bucks for all that color, but I mean, that's another option if you're looking to do that as well, and you'll have tons of it left over. So just kind of tips and tricks to make sure you get through it is make sure that you have plenty of supplies. We used foil for the first part so that we could then use the tablecloth when it came to putting the red on. The way in which you do it, if you want to put the color on first and then you want to put your natural hair color on, or you want to put your natural hair color on and then the rainbow at the bottom, it really is kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other. So it's up to you. It's really up to you the way you did it. The reason why we did the coloring first is because A, it was the most time consuming, and while I had her help, we wanted to do that part of it first. But you could do the main color and then just brush up the color up into your hair color. I chose to do it last so I could pull down the hair color a little bit more if I decided that the color had gone up too high. So it's really up to you what you want to do. But I would recommend, if it's your first time ever doing a dye of some kind, to find out how much it would take to go to a colorist, because it is a very intense process. And if you ruin your hair extensions, and by ruin I mean just color them wrong, you have to process that color out, and it's not easy. So for me, it was easy because I've colored my hair many, many times before, and because I had someone helping me. So just kind of be aware of that as well. I would also really, really highly recommend that you go check out Mary's tutorial. I will show that in the link below. I'll link you to her video, because she did one similar with the same kind of extensions, but she did less colors. I think she did like 2 or 3, and it's a much easier process. So I will link you to that video as well, for you guys to get kind of somebody else's take on how to do a tutorial for that, because hers is a very, very good tutorial, and she shows you those steps all the way through. So I know that's a lot of information that I just kind of threw at you. If you've made it this far in the video, it means that you're actually very highly considering doing this. So I hope that you enjoy it. Send me photos, Instagram me, tag me so I can see your own projects. If you guys have used another brand of extensions, let me know what kind you used and how you felt about them. I love these. I've never had extensions before. I know that this is a very kind of atypical video for my channel, but like I said, I've had a lot of people request to see how I did it, how much it cost, what kind of materials I was using, what colors I used. So that's all in this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in an actual game very, very soon. All right, bye.